Hello everyone, this is Bentley from Kent, Washington, and today we're going to do a ton of updates on the brand new rainbows from Gary Lange, starting with these awesome ungulum rainbows, or the chameleon rainbow. Now what you can see here is this young male is trying to entice this female for breeding. Unfortunately, due to the LED that is on this tank, my camera is not well picking up the color shifts that are happening, so we'll get that swapped out, and eventually we'll get to see that in much better color than was kind of washed out there in that like yellow toned light. At the top level of the same tank, we have two rings. Now, Friday morning, that's the 15th of June, saw this little guy swimming around, the very first Glossolepis maculosus, or the spotted rainbow fish. This is a really cool species of rainbow. They have blue fins, just a little bit. It's like kind of a pale blue. And then most of their body is yellow, except for there's this line of black spots that goes from about the middle of their abdomen all the way to the tail, dead center of the body in a line. Hence why they're called the spotted rainbow fish. Really cool. You can see there was one there. The very next morning, Saturday morning, there's like 10. Rainbows are really interesting in that if you had, let's say, 20 eggs all from the same day, each individual egg takes between 7 and 14 days typically to hatch. So they all hatch at different times, which is why we use these little breeding rings. Now, this is a really cool product from Swiss Tropicals. It has a mesh bottom and it floats with this styrofoam and then has a little jet lifter tube that is continuously powering brand new water to the surface. This keeps it oxygenated with clean water to minimize fungusing of eggs. This is a really good alternative to an egg tumbler or doing some other kind of DIY stuff for really fragile things like rainbow fish eggs. Now, beside that is a second ring that has some Melanitania parva, which have not hatched yet. These are really cool, like sun-kiss orange or sun, kind of the sunfire, bright orange whole body fish. You'll get an opportunity to see these when we finally get them to hatch. Now we go to one of the other tanks I showed in the previous video, and finally we've had some of the Chalatherina alenis from Wapoga hatch. These are Jerry Allen's rainbow fish. They've been named for Jerry Allen, who is this very influential person in the rainbow fish hobby. Gary Lange, the Indiana Jones of rainbow fish, an amazing guy. He got some of his very first, what he considers exotic rainbows from Jerry Allen. So that kind of tells you who this guy is and his influence on rainbow fish and rainbow fish keeping. Now, there's this great story that Gary will tell about Mr. Allen in that every time they would give him a fish to name and do all the scientific paperwork on, he would give them some boring name, as Gary likes to say, and he would never name them for himself. Now, he's done so much to this hobby that they really wanted to make sure that a fish got named for Mr. Allen. So finally, they found this amazing fish, and it was named for him. It's been in Amazonas magazine. It's absolutely beautiful. You get a chance, go look it up. Here's the sticker, and you'll notice there's a little thing that says F2. What that means is that F0 is the original wild-caught fish. The first generation of fry they had tank raised is F1. This is the second generation, so the children of those F1 fish. Now below, we have a ring and other fish in the tank. In the ring are some Melanitania Herbert Axelrodi, or Herbert Axelrod's rainbow fish. Now these happen to be Jerry Allen's strain of fish that Gary has been keeping for years and years. So I've got two of them right now, tons of eggs still coming up. This is a really beautiful rainbow fish, big yellow body, bright red fins, commonly called just the yellow rainbow. They're very common in the hobby, but this is a very, very good strain. And then in the tank, we have Goldie Eyes from Decay. And if you look at the heater right now, you should actually see one of the first few fry swimming around right there. He's teeny, teeny, tiny. We've only got about two so far, but again, as I said, rainbow fish eggs hatch at a really weird times and all different. So over the next few days, we should see more and more of these little guys swimming around. This is a beautiful fish. And again, you'll notice these are also F2s. Lucas Bretz has some of these if you've ever watched his streams. It's a beautiful kind of powdery blue fish with yellow that turns to red fins. Really cool. Finally, the crown jewel, as far as I'm concerned, the Running River rainbow fish. Now, this fish has a very important story, as it is, effectively speaking, extinct in the wild. In 2016, scientists doing standard fish observations noticed that in Running River, which is this area that's separated by a gorge in part of Australia in this water system, in the Running River, a different species of Australian rainbow fish had been somehow introduced into the Running River's native habitat. Now, rainbow fish, if you have two Melanitanias together, they will crossbreed. That's a big problem. That means that this fish is potentially going to have muddled genetics and will become extinct. So very, very quickly in 2016, this group of scientists mobilized together and went through, did all this DNA work to ensure they had pure strained original running river fish, and got somewhere between 40 and 80 breeding stock fish out of the river and brought them into captivity in order to raise new fish to fix the population. Now, while they're doing this, they're scouting for a new location, and they eventually find this beautiful location that has a waterfall basically protecting it, and no other rainbow fish exist in this location further up the running river. So when you do this, you have to do more than just introduce the fish after breeding them into the habitat. You have to teach them things. Now, in these particular water systems, there are several different types of predators, one of which is the spotted perch. Rainbow fish are among a type of fish that when they die, they will excrete a pheromone into the water that alerts all other of that type of rainbow fish. Something is wrong. There's a predator here. One of us died. Run and hide. Run, 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 hide. So what they had to do is unfortunately euthanize a couple of the fish as they were raising up new ones to get that pheromone and create what they called rainbow essence. And then what they would do is they would take a little net breeder box with a spangled perch or one of the other predators, mostly the spangled perch, that's the big one, put it into the tank and then put a little bit of that rainbow essence in so that that pheromone would hit and teach them that this is a predator. You need to be afraid of it. You need to stay away from it. Rainbow fish are very curious. They will go up and look at things. If they're not trained, that's a bad thing to be by. So they do all this work. They breed up 2,000 of these fish, and they go to introduce them into the wild. Now, the important thing you should know here, these scientists are a group, a couple of them for the University of Canberra, but they needed private funding. And they were able to get $11,000 of private funding. And you might think, God, that's nothing. And you're right. But at the same time, for a very small team, saving one fish, $11,000 is enough to make sure that they have everything they need to get that fish and get them saved. 2,000 of that money came from the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, my local club. So when it finally came time to auction some of these fish, the first ones to ever be auctioned into somebody else other than a few private hands who have been given these fish in order to raise them to help further the species and prevent them from going truly extinct beyond the scientists' efforts. Greater Seattle Aquarium Society was the one that got the chance from Gary Lange. And luckily, I got to take them home, which means I wasn't joking when I said it before. I'm the first one in the world to be able to buy these fish at auction. Now, they released 2,000 of these fish back into the wild. And you should know that when you release trout in the wild, for example, let's say you're getting 20,000 new trout from a hatchery that are going to go into the wild, only a few hundred of those fish are going to survive. And this is common for most fish that are captive bred and released into the wild. The numbers of survived fish are very, very low. Well, a recent tour to check on the population in their new habitat to make sure they hadn't been eaten by predators or fallen off the waterfall and died trying to get into the water system below. They estimate between 1,000 and 2,000 fish have survived, and there are plenty of babies. There's this great story in this documentary, excuse me, that I'm going to link down below in the description about saving the running river rainbowfish, of one of those scientists swimming around doing his estimated counts and turning around to see a group of like 400 fish following him around, curious what this human is doing in their river. That is the story of how the running river rainbowfish was saved. And there's this amazing documentary. Like I said, it's going to be in the description notes. It's only like 25 minutes, so it's not very long. Please check it out. It's fantastic. They're working with a new rainbowfish now called the Malanda, or the Malanda Gold from Wallace Road. We got a group of those too. Those are in the hands of Master Breeder Dean. So if you watched Aquarium Co-op, you know who that is. We're going to swap them. We're going to make sure that neither of these two fish are extinct up in the Northwest. Finally, here's a little preview of our next video. This is Ludwigia pantanal. I started with 4 stems of this, and I'm going to teach you an amazing trick that will get you a field of plants like this in no time. You can see here, easily like 20 plants. I'm going to teach you how. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have questions about rainbowfish, shoot them down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a like. And as always, stay awesome.